Portals is a powerful name because it suggests movement. It literally means, a web portal, or it means like a door. But we were suggesting something new, which was a physical digital world.
It was just this idea of stepping into a space that felt like you were in the same room with somebody who you normally wouldn't meet.
The world is pushing this divide on us, but we're trying to push out of that and find what connects us.
The first few minutes, it's uncomfortable, but once you're in, there's this experience that you have that opens you up to a new way of enjoying life.
It's sort of a movement to encourage people to get out of their comfort zone and speak with people who are different than themselves.
We understand ourselves as part of narratives, as part of long-term projects that are refined and built with effort. In its broadest sense of the term, human experience is undervalued.
In 2017, I was in Vancouver at the Big Ted, and I walked out of this beautiful, picturesque patio overlooking the Vancouver Bay. And I looked to my left, and I saw this gold shipping container and this guy named Jake. And we interact, we have a few pleasantries, and he said, "Come on in." And I went in and instantly was enamored and instantly blown away by his description of it and me interacting with it. And we were talking to Mexico City, and in the chaos of Mexico City, I was having this intimate, beautiful conversation with two Mexican women who just had all the passion in the world for Mexican culture, and we talked food, and we talked about where I needed to go and where I hadn't been, and I befriended them in 20 minutes. And I said, who created this? What crazy mind did this come out of? And he said, "You ought to meet Amar. You and Amar would get along. You guys ought to meet." And so I was like, "Where's Amar?" And they're like, "Brooklyn." So I said, "We're going to Brooklyn."
See any need for the additional equipment. I think it was ample room for us to get our truck in, to get it positioned, and get it unloaded.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think it's going to be an issue at all.
So you have enough space for a straight shot back into the position where the container is going to be, and enough room to...
The decision to pursue the idea came in 2014. The idea had been around much longer than that, in different forms. When I graduated from college, I was a reporter. And I spent a couple years traveling around the world, interviewing people from all walks of life. But when the days were done, and I was moving from one part of a country to another, I would have a conversation with the camera off, with a stranger sitting next to me. I don't even remember a particular conversation, but I remember the feeling of being lost in the world and finding surprise, similarity, joy, disgust in a conversation with a complete stranger. Now, when I came back to the US, every encounter I had was to get a date or get a job. And when I was on a train or a bus, I would listen to a podcast or watch Netflix. I was never lost in the world. So that was part one of where the idea of Portals came from. And the second piece of it is from my grandmother. She would tell me about her traumatic story fleeing from Lahore, Pakistan to India in 1947 during partition, at a time when 20 million people died over a border. She left when she was 11 or 12. She would tell me all these stories, things that she would do, but she never went back to Pakistan. So I said, Nanny, don't worry. One day, Google will create a holographic version of you, and you'll be able to walk around the streets of Pakistan as if you're there. And so we kind of bonded over this fantasy, saying, oh, wouldn't that be great? And so she passed away some years later, and, well, I thought, what would Nanny want? And I thought, well, my grandmother would want to walk into a coffee shop in Columbia, Maryland, and just sit down and share a chai with someone in Lahore, Pakistan. Doesn't matter if that person was 12 or 75. I thought that she can't be the only one. I thought how lucky I was to have had the chance to go around the world talking to whoever I want. And I thought about my life, about my bus rides, about my social world. So two kind of things happened in parallel. One, I got a shipping container. And two, I started circulating the idea of portals to anyone who would listen. And I would say people really fell into one of two camps. One camp was, this is Skype. Maybe you can do it once, but why? But then the other type of person, it would hit a nerve, and they would say, yes, this is exactly how I feel.
So he called me up one day, and I remember we spoke for an hour, and he said, I have this idea that you step inside of this box, and it wasn't even, I don't know if he didn't call it portals yet. And I was like, yes, let's do it. And for me as a journalist, it was like perfect. I was like, great, we can connect these two people that I've been trying to explain to one another for years now. I can just have them step inside of this, whatever it's called, and have them speak to each other.
We do not understand our lives as a series of isolated choices to derive momentary pleasure.
They can create their own meaning with one another.
We have stories, we have narratives, we have arcs.
And so we just kept riffing, and we were like, I would get really excited about what he was saying, and I think he was excited by the fact that I was like, yes, we can make this happen.
The portal was in my parents' backyard.
It was all these different colors because he hadn't come to the gold conclusion yet.
When you paint it white, it just looked like an art cube. It looked very pretentious. Black was scary, like a black site. Silver was very precious, but my grandmother had little Hindu gods and goddesses that were a faded old gold, but an older, richer gold. And when I painted the whole thing that color, it felt right. I settled on the shipping container because it is a modular form, so everyone can build it exactly the same way, and that's very important for getting the experience of being in the same room. It's easy to secure, it's easy to move, and it's relatively affordable.
That's part of the universality of the idea. It can be in a parking lot, it can be at a park, it can be on a university campus.
And symbolically, this whole project is about taking something that's mundane, a shipping container, internet, and imbuing it with a new meaning. I always wanted to do it with a site between two countries that were hard to connect, so I really liked the idea of Iran. And Michelle immediately was bought into it because she's an Iranian American who knows folks in Iran, knows folks in America, talks to one another about the other. So she was really excited.
I think the kind of impossibility of it was really motivating for me. When putting a container in the middle of, of Tehran, like no way, using internet where like Iran does censor the internet, how is that gonna be even feasible?
Meanwhile, Michelle was going back and forth to Iran trying to find a partner there. And she found just the perfect partner.
It's the same as the one I have here?
Yeah, they're the exact same light.
An artist named Sohrab Kashani, about my age, a little younger, ran an art space called the Sazmanab Center. Sohrab really got this idea intuitively because he was denied a visa to come to the US. So instead, he collaborated with an artist who wore Google glasses at the time and walked around as Sohrab's human avatar. But it was similar to the idea of what me and my grandmother had imagined. So it was immediately clear to me that he was thinking about technology in a way that I was, which is, how do we use it to break through these barriers rather than entrench them? So he made it happen, in a much harder circumstance than what we faced.
Okay, cool. All right, bye.
Bye.
And when we launched in December of 2014, just for 2 weeks, Michelle and I had no idea what to expect.
Yeah, I don't know. Hopefully this will become something, but I don't know.
We thought people would go in, and leave after a few minutes. We thought they'd think it was neat. And be like, oh, that was cool, you know. We hoped it would be more. We organized a lot of collaborations because we were afraid the conversation wouldn't be enough. So we had sleepovers and dance parties and musical collaborations every day. But we gave people a simple prompt, which is what would make today a good day for you. And that turned out to be very powerful.
People use that prompt to speak about their day-to-day lives, which often are reflective of the broader context. But I think that those conversations led to much more memorable, personal, organic interactions.
So people would come in and they would stay there for like the whole day, for hours. They'd come out really moved.
When we thought people would stay in for about 5 or 10 minutes and they stayed in for 50, we realized that, oh, this is special. This could be something.
You know, you find out somebody is so different from you, you have more in common than you think.
It was a great reminder that the world is really big and also really small.
Inside an art gallery in downtown Manhattan sits a large golden box. It may look like a fancy shipping container, but enter and you will discover it is actually a portal to Iran. Despite being 6,000 miles and a world apart, participants can easily slide into conversation with each other about their daily lives. I went into the portal and
Portal began to quickly get traction. It got a lot of media coverage, people spread it by word of mouth. The thing became like a circus for 2 weeks, and then it was over. And Michelle and I weren't quite sure what to do. I was still in law school. Michelle was still a journalist.
Amar and I went out to dinner that night, and I remember we literally wrote on a napkin, how can we continue this? Because I said, this should be everywhere. This isn't just something that should be a one-off project.
And around that time, Omid Habibi, who is a computer science professor in Herat, Afghanistan, heard about us on BBC Persian, emailed me and said, I am in Afghanistan. I worry that when the world thinks of us, they think of the Taliban. We have a lot to share, but we also have a lot we want to learn from the world. I said, well, you know, yeah, great. We'd love to have you set up a portal. Here's how you do it.
And he wrote back 2 weeks later with a series of pictures. One of them was him standing in the middle of a shipping container yard saying, I've chosen this container. And he had all these arrows like pointing to that exact one. We realized that, oh, this guy's serious. So we actually applied for a grant. We got like $5,000 from this grant, and we sent over the equipment to launch a portal there.
And then he organized all the tribal leaders to come to a big launch event, ribbon cutting ceremony, inaugurate this collectively as a, this is Herat, this is what we have to offer, and this is what we're hoping to gain. So at that point, it was March, and we had our first permanent portal. At the time, I thought it was going to be very, capital A art piece. Galleries, museums, maybe public parks around the world. It kind of happened slowly, where we began to grow. People started reaching out from around the world, saying they wanted portals from very, very different walks of life. It was clear early that this was a space that meant something unique. Already, this was like by September, it wasn't mine in any meaningful sense of the word.
And all of a sudden you get this passion and this process he took manifest in the form of a gold shipping container in 41 locations around the world.
Look at all that's come together on the project.
Then this is gonna go like on the ceiling like this.
Where is this one?
It's almost like you should set these up at universities.
Yeah, that would be the idea.
How are you doing today?
Hi, Emily. I'm doing great, thank you. I'm in sunny California.
I'm glad that I had a chance to talk to you almost in person. It feels like you're standing right there.
I know the situation is complex. At the same time, in many ways, it is also very simple.
I was very quickly divorced from the day-to-day of what has made this company great. And that's probably why it's done so well, because it became something that was collectively owned.
You go from artist to art director, by virtue of realizing and having a deep maturity around the idea that it's not yours anymore. You've given it up. All it is now the world's.
Not only did my name literally get stripped, but it became very clear to me that the things that gave this meaning in life were what happened inside and what people created together. And that's something that wouldn't exist in that community otherwise, and that's what we so sorely need.
I think art challenges your perspectives. It encourages you to look at things in a different way. Far too often, art is trapped in museums. Whereas here in the portal, we actually encourage you to go in and the conversation is art. It's sort of a movement to create spaces that celebrate diversity, that encourage people to get out of their comfort zone and speak with people who are different than themselves. I mean, that's why people travel. That's why people go to museums. They go to be moved. They go to be taken out of their day-to-day lives. And the portal does this without having to leave the comfort of your own city.
Yeah, and what was the lady's name? Was her name Carol that we met down at?
It was 2 years of me traveling to Milwaukee and Mexico City and Brooklyn. But Jennifer and Bill, thank you guys, and we can't wait to see you guys on the 14th and the 24th. And over many interactions with it and taking friends and clients and others to see it, that it was about 8 months ago that I was with Namisha, my teammate, and I looked at her and I said, we have to do this in Richmond. We've talked around it too often and too many times, so how do we bring it to Richmond?
Now that we have 40 portals across the world, we realize we need to break these down into little steps. From where the portal is going to come from. Do we have to build a new one? How are we going to build it? How much is it going to cost? There's so many little details that we need to think about.
It was kind of magic when on January 14th, it rolled in on that truck and it came down on that cold ground in Monroe Park on a snowy day. It's like, it happened, it's here.
This is so good. It's nice and warm in here.
And obviously, once the logistics are in place, we need an active community that's going to be able to take ownership of it.
We launched with a launch party that brought together people from across the city, across institutions.
It's hard to put your finger on exactly what that is.
Being here in Richmond, I felt very welcomed. And that's exactly what we want through portals. We want people to engage with people they don't normally meet, engage with people that they don't already know. And in Richmond, it feels like they know how to do that.
I think we're just one of those unique places that brings to bear and honors all the weird, all the eclectic, and all the unique. And we accept it in this really honoring way, and it makes for a great set of things and conditions for a great city.
They understand, oh, this is a new part of our community. This is something that we will build. We realize that we need to put effort into it, and we're excited to do so. And portals will not work in communities that don't have them.
It's just a responsibility. And I think that Mamar and Michelle built a good model and a good process to say, we've created this thing, this vessel, now make it your own. Our early thesis and belief system around bringing it to Richmond was, what if we could have every Richmond public school child experience the portal and make it a couple-hour experience where they may, in fact, experience a part of the world that they may not ever visit ever. And there's no way I was going to change the approach to the Richmond public school system approach to educating, but we can instigate a little bit of a conversation and some inspiration for them that might be fuel for them to be a better version of themselves. One of the ones that most embodies the purest and best interaction was when we took the muralists from Mexico City, connected them to the Binford Middle School students in Richmond, Virginia, and watched the magic.
I wasn't expecting that to put your
Sorry I'm late, guys. Hola.
I was led into a dark box with 9 children I don't know to talk to 2 artists in Mexico City.
There's a lot of you.
Yeah. They all know each other, but we just met for the first time just now. How old are you guys? 12, 14. 11, 12, and 14.
It was awesome.
It was really fun. We got to learn a lot about the artists and what they do.
We don't want to paint something for nothing.
Yeah.
We want to send a message.
Do you guys have to get permission first?
You know, the thing that always strikes me about portals is when kids engage. Because, one, they really expect a portal. You know, they come in and they're like, can I go through this and walk into Mexico? So they expect a lot.
I thought, oh, it's gonna be like super cool. I walk into like this room and it's gonna be like filled with a bunch of stuff. And then I realized, oh, it's a metal can spray painted gold. And there's FaceTime in it.
But on the other hand, you know, there's this wow to it, always, that it's instant, it's quick, and then it's fleeting. It's like the change arc that you want to see over centuries. Kids do it in milliseconds.
I feel like it's one thing to learn about the place, but it's another thing to experience it.
Yeah.
They're just humans like us, and they're learning like us, and we're doing the same things. They were actually really nice. They were really nice.
Sometimes in my neighborhood, the people just don't want to give you the walls. Partido comes and, oh, please, I will give you 1,000 pesos and let me put something of the States. That sucks.
What really caught my attention was they don't get paid for this. And I feel like that's a really cool thing to do because you're not just like, oh, well, I don't get paid for this, so I'm not going to do it.
When you have a really good message, a really good intention, you don't need to ask for permission. Just fucking do it.
No, you should ease into the conversation.
Like ease into it and like also go with the flow of it.
Yeah,
you
go
never
with the
know
flow.
what conversation you're gonna go into next.
It
And
might
it could be like something really important.
Because we're a society that it is killing women like really crazy. And
50 girls per day.
50 girls per day are dead in our country right now. And so we're not gonna ask for permission because all these guys that are killing women are not asking for permission.
I didn't feel like I could hold a candle to the kind of work that they're doing and the things that they're trying to say to the community. I feel like I'm approaching that and I have a lot to learn from the way that they're engaging with the spaces around them. But I'm taking this like very small baby step of doing a personal project to speak to women around Richmond. But what they're doing is like above and beyond in terms of fighting for their rights.
It sounds like you're on ground zero of some like very intense, difficult problems.
Yeah, we're Mexicans.
It makes you see yourself differently. And that actually gives me freedom. It gives me an awareness. It gives me that distance to live the way I wish to live.
You meet not only people across the world that you normally wouldn't, but community members have told us that one of the things I loved about Portals is that I met so many different kinds of people within my own city.
It really like inspired me because I feel like it's two different things to like know what you're gonna draw, and it's another thing to know your motivation.
What are you curious about?
What do you care about?
Peace.
Yes.
They immediately went on this huge tear about we want peace, we want to get rid of all this negativity.
It's all about politics. We definitely need a different, female president. Exactly.
Sounds good. Sounds promising.
How we imagine ourselves in relation to others is, you know, it's everything. It's a lot of what our lives are. And to be in the world in a way where you're excited by someone else's story as opposed to indifferent to or threatened by it, it's just a better, I think it's just a better way to be in the world. And when communities like Richmond are taking advantage of what we're trying to do, they're helping to propagate that idea, but they're helping to bring this way to different parts of their own community and share that with the world.
And if you really think about it, we're not different at all. Like, we're all just like, we may do different stuff, we may think about different stuff, we may live in different places, but we're like, in the gist of it, we're all like humans.